When do you think the power is going to be back on?
Picked a hell of a time to have us all over.
Isn't it? I mean, the rain, the thunder. I mean, it's the perfect way to spend an evening together. Now, being that we've got nothing better to do each of you have a story to tell?
Why do we have to do this?
Because it's fun.
But why do we have to do it now?
What else are we gonna do? It's too dangerous to drive anywhere.
Oh, I could, you know.
Oh, you think so?
Mm-hmm.
So, who's gonna go first? Fine. I'll start us off. I was driving by myself, moving from Philadelphia to Los Angeles. I had made arrangements to stay in a hotel in Santa Fe. By the time I crossed over the border into New Mexico, it was already starting to get dark. So, to shave off some time, I thought it'd be a good idea to take a shortcut, down a back road into the desert. Have either one of you ever driven at night in the desert? The darkness, it's unbelievable. My check engine light comes on. Why now? Why is this happening when I'm all alone in the middle of nowhere? So I ease off the gas as to not stress out the engine. Just a few more hours. I pray, just get me to town. Just get me to Santa Fe. It was then that I saw it. Something that cut through the darkness. A single headlight. The light is getting closer. And of course, I'm driving slow. And it's inevitable, this guy's gonna pass me, right? But the strangest thing happens. He slows down and he starts to drift away. Again, the light got closer and closer and then backed off. Over and over and over again, the guy drove this way. Why wouldn't he just pass me? I started to panic. It was like he was taunting me. Do I risk speeding away? What if I push my car too far and I break down? I scanned the darkness ahead of me, hoping to see a light from another car or town. I only took my eyes off that light for a second. But when I looked back behind me, the light, it was gone. How could that be? Where did he go? Maybe he pulled off to the side of the road? But shouldn't I still see that single headlight behind me? I checked the GPS on my phone. Only 20 minutes away. I can make it. I look behind me. The light's back, right on my tail. It was close enough that I should have been able to see what it was. A truck, a motorcycle, something, anything. But there was nothing. Just the light. And it was getting closer. I couldn't risk it anymore. I stepped on the gas. The steering wheel began to shake. A noise rang out from under my hood. My car, it was going to give out. And that damn light, it kept getting closer and closer and closer. And then I saw it in the distance. The town. Santa Fe. I had made it. I looked behind me, and the light was gone. This time, for good. My car limped to the hotel, and I spent a restless night thinking about my ordeal. What would have happened if my car did break down on the side of that road? I went online and I looked to see if anybody else had the same experiences that I did. I'm not going to tell you what I found. you're gonna have to do that for yourselves. All I know is my ass will never drive in the desert again. What do you think?
Did you get your car fixed?
All right, who's gonna go next? Michelle. How about you?
All right, but I gotta warn you, mine doesn't have a chase scene. I needed some extra money while I was in college, and you know me, I wanted something super easy, so I decided to work at a movie theater. Sell popcorn, work the projector, watch some free movies. When I first started, I was warned that I would never be alone in the projection booth. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I just kind of laughed it off. After a little bit of training and some hand-holding, I finally got to spend my first night alone up there. Now keep in mind, this is way before digital. You can't just plug it into a computer like you can now. We ran film, giant spools of it, and I had to thread that film through the projector. I remember the first time it happened to me. I bent down to pull the slack, and someone blew into my ear. It was so creepy. Like I jumped up and I looked around, but nobody was there. I was like, were the employees right? I mean, they had warned me, but ghosts don't exist, right? Happened again and again and again. Every night, every time I went to thread that projector, someone would blow into my ear. It was the freakiest feeling. And I looked for every plausible reason what it could be, a vent, a fan, but there wasn't one. And I started to think, could there actually be a ghost up here? But what are you gonna do? I mean, I needed the job, and I mean, if a ghost wants to blow in my ear, I just hope he's cute. And yeah, I just got used to it after a while. Now, the great thing about being at the projection booth is you get to see everything, and you can look down into the theaters. But I also had this cool little window that I could look down into the lobby. One night, during a particularly boring Hugh Grant film, I was gazing down into the lobby, and something caught my eye down by the popcorn. Like a mist just floating there. I could soon make out its shape, and it was a man hovering in the lobby. And he was looking right at me. I froze. I turned back to the projector. I was so afraid to turn around. When I finally did, he was gone. Not long after, I was in the ticket booth, and there was a lull in between shows, so I was reading my book, and I just got the feeling that somebody was watching me. So I turn around, and I see my manager, Jason, just standing there, staring at me. So I put my book down, because you're not supposed to do that on the clock, and he just stands there, staring. It's like, sorry, Jason. And he just turns around and walks up to the projection booth. Well, not a minute passes and I'm already getting bored. My book was just getting to the good part. So I go to pick it up and I hear someone call my name. I look up and it's Jason, standing outside the ticket booth. Why do you keep sneaking up on me like that? He looks all confused. What are you talking about? I was like, you were just down in the lobby staring at me. He gives me this funny look. He says, I just got here. My blood runs cold. He follows me up to the projection booth. It's empty, as expected. And Jason thinks I'm pulling his leg. I really wish I was. I I kept thinking back to him standing there in the lobby. Something I didn't catch before. Something in his face, something in his eyes. He didn't have any eyes. I quit the next day.
Did you ever go back?
No. I don't even know if they're still open or if the building's even still standing. And honestly, I don't think I want to know.
Marlene. What's wrong? Don't you have a story to tell?
Maybe it's not scary.
No, it's not that. It's just that I never told it before.
Well, it's okay. You can tell us.
Fine. Before I was born, there was this old house in England that my family owned. Late one night, when my grandmother was sleeping, she heard my grandfather walk up the wooden stairs. He came into the room, lifted the covers, he pressed up against her, and she was like, "Thomas, you're cold." But when she turned around, nobody was there. She was alone. And that's when she realized that there was something strange in the house. Years later, after I was born, my family moves into that house. And as soon as I could speak, I start talking to somebody named Danny. Well, Danny and I were good friends, and we would play all the time. But my mother just assumed that I had an imaginary friend, you know, like most kids do. One day, when I was about 2 years old, my mom was flipping through the channels on the television, and I saw him. I said, "Mom, that's Danny." She looks up at the TV. It was an old man. He was dying. Later, my mom hears me screaming for her. So she runs into the room and I'm like, "Mommy, Mommy, get him off of me. Danny is hurting me." She was so frightened that we didn't spend another night in that house. My father had to go to America to earn money. And my mother was pregnant, so she stayed behind in England with me. After she gave birth, she called my dad to let him know that she had a son, and she named him Anthony. But my dad, who was in New York, said, "No way. Everyone here, their name is Tony." So he said, "You need to name him something else." And my mom said, "Well, Marlene wants to name him Danny." And my dad thought about it. And he said, "You know what? She's played with a Danny her entire life. Name him Danny." And she did. My brother Danny and I, we always got along. In fact, I would consider us almost like twins. We would just laugh and laugh in the back seat of my mom's car. Oh my God, we would annoy her so much. And as I got older, almost forgot about the other Danny. But he was always there. Now, when I was in college, I had this big, old, obnoxiously loud printer. And if I overslept, the printer would suddenly go off and wake me up out of nowhere. That was Danny. And none of my boyfriends ever believed in ghosts until they met me. If a guy entered the dorm and Danny didn't like him, he'd bang on the pipes, bang on the walls. All of them said the same thing. They don't know what it is, but some sort of entity surrounds me. Well, I ignored them. When I moved here, I met this guy. Thought maybe he's the one. But then one day we got into an argument. And suddenly, my bird's cage is shaking, books are flying off the shelf, and the ceiling cracked. Needless to say, he left. He couldn't take it. Not long after, I went to a tea reader. She told me, that guy, he wasn't the one. And then, she asked me if I'm afraid of ghosts. I asked her why. She said, do you remember what happened in your childhood? Do you remember the old man? And suddenly I remembered everything. And then she asked me, do you want to see him? I froze. And she gestures to the cup and says, in the cup, I mean. So I look inside the cup, and there I see it. A face that I haven't seen since I was a little girl. Then the reader says, do you see what's right next to him? That's you and your brother holding hands. A few years pass, and my aunt moves into that old house in England. She has a son. She names him Michael. Then one day, she calls my mom up and says, Marie, you'll never believe it. Michael is talking to someone. He says his name is Danny. I have 23 cousins, and only Michael and I have ever seen Danny. And we're the only two that have ever lived in that house.
Why would you keep that to yourself?
Do you think it still follows you?
I don't know. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I think, maybe?
Well, go on. Try.
Do you hear that?
Hear what?
I didn't hear anything.
Exactly. The rain stopped.
Shit!
Oh my God, that scared the shit out of me.